back to All About the Disney Life. I am Danny B, the girl who is all about the Disney life. We now move on to our next Disney musical. Well, technically, this is not a Disney musical. It was more of a concert. But the next musical/concert we're going to talk about is King David, which came out in 1997. So here are the facts. Number one, the backstory. King David, a world premiere concert event, is a 1997 oratorio, sometimes described as a work in progress musical, co-produced by the Walt Disney Company and Andre Jaoui, and written by Alan Menken and Tim Rice. Originally conceived by Jaoui as a grand musical performed in Jerusalem to celebrate the 3,000th anniversary of the city's founding, it was eventually staged as a concert in the first production at Broadway's New Amsterdam Theater after Disney's restoration. Opening on May 18, 1997, after 3 previews beginning May 15th, the show ran for 6 performances closing May 23rd. King David is a song cycle about David, whom Alan Menken deems one of the great heroes of Jewish history, and is based on biblical tales from the books of Samuel and the first book of Chronicles, as well as texts from David's Psalms. It retells the Old Testament story of the shepherd boy David, who rises from his humble roots to become king of Israel, including the drama between him and Saul, and David's trials and tribulations in the foundation of Jerusalem. At present, there are no plans for a fully staged Broadway production. Number 2, the conception. King David was originally conceived in 1994 by Jerusalem 3000 producer Andre Jaoui as a musical based on the life of King David to commemorate the 3,000th anniversary of the founding of the city of Jerusalem. It was to be performed in 1996 at Sultan's Pool, an archaeological site which had since been turned into a concert arena. Jaoui described it as the most spectacular and dramatic production ever staged, as well as conveying a message of inspiration, hope, and peace to the world. The show is expected to tour worldwide, including in Los Angeles, before playing on Broadway and the West End. Jaoui approached Alan and Tim about writing the piece. Alan took on songwriting duties while bringing on his collaborator Tim for the libretto. The two were sought after due to their former Broadway success Beauty and the Beast and the latter's cinema hit The Lion King. Tim had previously helped Alan complete the scores of Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast after Alan's partner Howard Ashman died of AIDS. This would be the first full score together. The show would also be Tim's third biblical-themed musical, having previously written the lyrics to Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Tim has since developed a longtime interest in the character of Saul and utilized the opportunity to theatrically explore the character tragic narrative in the context of his rivalry with David. By November, cast and production crew had not yet been selected. Over the next couple of years, meeting dates became difficult to arrange, and the project languished. Alan collaborated with Stephen Schwartz on Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and afterwards, both men moved on to biblical projects. Schwartz to The Prince of Egypt, and Alan returned to King David. While Jaoui had wanted a grandiose musical, Alan assessed the enormous space really could only handle a concert, so the project evolved into a humbler oratorio. By December 1995, Disney had come on as a producing partner to Jaoui, and the company re-announced King David to the press as an Israeli concert to be performed in September of 1996, featuring Israeli and American actors, though no one had yet been cast. Robert W. McTire, Senior Vice President of Walt Disney Theatrical Productions, said, "This work is being written as a concert, or as Alan would say, an oratorio, and that following the performance, then we'll see what kind of life it has." Number 3, the Disney connection. King David's planned debut in Caesarea, Israel in September of 1996 was canceled. Alan cited the score not being completed and due to security concerns. Ultimately, an opportunity arose at the New Amsterdam once Disney came on as a producer. According to Tim, when it proved logistically and financially impossible to do it, and Disney took an interest, we changed gears. Classic New York history argues Disney chose to reopen the New Amsterdam Theater with King David and a screening of the Hercules movie, so that press related to the reopening would not be overshadowed by that of the soon-to-be major hit The Lion King. After being an open secret in the industry and months of speculation, on August 19, 1996, the King David project was officially re-announced by Walt Disney CEO Michael Eisner at a press event in Sardi's Theatrical Restaurant as the first show put on at Disney's New Amsterdam Theater on Broadway as a limited engagement of 5 concert performances in May of 1997. Reporters gathered around a piano while Allen performed a 7-minute preview of songs from the oratorio. Eisner noted the first full production was still a toss-up between The Lion King and Ada, with the decision not being made until after Disney executives attended a reading of The Lion King. Tin opined it's really a fairly un-Broadway piece, something that we hope will work eventually on Broadway, but the great thing is we haven't had to worry about how we get people on and off stage. It's a work in progress. Eisner described the concert as the first step toward the theatricalization of King David as a full stage production. Noting its unfinished quality, the New York Times later described it as Broadway's most lavish workshop. Number 4, the writing. Allen and Tim found that the story divided itself into 2 halves. David and Saul in the first part, where he is written as a hero, and the succession story in the second part, where he is written as flawed. In their assessment, both the biblical treatment and modern-day perception views these tales of David as virtually 2 stories featuring almost 2 characters, noting a generally accepted theory of them being written by 2 separate authors. The team decided against a clear viewpoint of the Bible as a work of fiction versus a record of historical events, and instead focus on the political and psychological life of a leader with modern-day allegories. Tim's lyrics jump between classical and contemporary references and balance both the humorous and dramatic. Number 5, the productions. By August 1996, casting was underway, with the cast and the design team being announced by November, and tickets going on sale before the end of the year. At this time, a fully staged version was being considered for the fall of 1998. The show featured 2 actors known to Disney audience for their performances in animated movies: Judy Kuhn as the singing voice of Pocahontas and Roger Bart as the singing voice of Hercules in the then upcoming film of the same name. During initial press, the creative team avoided drawing attention to Julie Taymor's The Lion King, which incorporated Tim's score of the 1994 film, which was expected to replace King David for the 1996-1997 season. Disney officials would not comment on the cost of the concert presentation of David or the price of tickets, though they intimidated the latter would fall in line with current Broadway levels. Premiering on May 15, 1997, 5 days earlier than originally scheduled, the 2-hour, 40-minute, 30-second song cycle was presented with a chorus of 30 and an orchestra of 65. The performers were costumed and there was a set, but the production was not choreographed or fully staged. Mayor Rudolph W. Giuliani delivered the curtain speech that evening on the opening night of King David. By May 23rd, the artwork had been completed and advertisements for the forthcoming CD were released. Ockrent doubted the nature of piece would make it eligible for a Tony Award. This proved not to matter, as King David opened after the deadline for the 1997 awards voting had closed. Number 6, the music. King David is mostly sung through with little dialogue, and the music incorporates genres ranging from pop, jazz, and rock to grand ballad-like choral arrangements. It uses a large orchestra and a large choir. The piece is based on biblical tales from the books of Samuel, the first book of Chronicles, and David's Psalms. Playbill described the style of songs in King David as most similar to his score for the unproduced TV musical Messiah on Mott Street. The piece contains around 5,000 bars of music compared to Beauty and the Beast, which only has 2,200 bars. For Allen, the process of making King David was like writing an album, where he played with styles including Semitic, Middle Eastern, cantorial, pop, and classical. Allen wanted to incorporate period instruments while keeping a contemporary sense of being drawn into another time. He noted on May 11th, there are 5 orchestrators, some of them working around the clock, and we're still probably not going to get this completed by the first orchestra rehearsal. Number 7, all the productions. A concert version produced by Disney Theatrical Productions and Andre Jaoui and directed by Mike Ockrent was presented as the inaugural production at Disney's newly renovated New Amsterdam Theater, the former home of the Ziegfeld Follies, playing for a 9-performance limited run in May of 1997. The piece ran 2 hours and 45 minutes and was only partially staged. On September 6, 1997, Patti LuPone, Davis Gaines, and Rebecca Luker gave a concert at the Hollywood Bowl that ended with 3 selections from King David. There was a production in Irving, Texas in 2004. Amateur and school productions include Landmark Christian School, Noonan, Georgia, near Atlanta in 2005. A concert performance was produced by NYU Steinhardt's Vocal Performance and the NYU Symphony Orchestra in conjunction with the authors on November 13th and 14th of 2008. In the summer of 2012, Neighborhood Church in Castro Valley, California, near Oakland, performed the musical as part of their yearly summer musical series. 2 selections from the show were performed at the Broadway and Beyond concert at Anaheim Convention Center for the D23 Expo of 2013. Thomas Schumacher, who hosted the event, advised he wanted to include the show in the Disney on Broadway retrospective, as the show is so rarely heard or discussed. In 2009, Tim put on a concert performance of the troubled show Chess and planned to do the same for King David in an effort to focus solely on workshopping the score without regard for the book, costumes, or set, a strategy he had previously employed for Andrew Lloyd Webber's musicals. He also planned to meet with Alan to discuss the future of the show. In 2011, Tim noted, "Alan and I had lunch the other day, and we discussed the fact that we really must get King David somehow back onto a stage. I think it's got some potential." In 2017, Alan explained, "I like to go back and fix King David, but that his schedule was filled by the Disney's live-action remakes of his scores at the time, with Beauty and the Beast, which came out in 2017, Aladdin, which was coming out in 2019, and The Little Mermaid, which was coming out in 2023. In 2019, 2 selections from the show were performed as part of the Disney's Broadway Hits concert at Royal Albert Hall. At present, there are no plans for a fully staged Broadway production. Number 8, the impact and legacy. King David was a significant, albeit short-lived, theatrical event produced by Walt Disney Theatrical and written by Alan Menken and Tim Rice. While it is not a traditional long-running Broadway show, it left a distinct mark on Disney's theatrical history by launching the restoration of the New Amsterdam Theater and pioneering a new, more mature musical style for the company. Number 9, the impact on Disney's theatricals. New Amsterdam reopening. The concert-style show served as the inaugural production at Broadway's New Amsterdam Theater, which Disney restored to its original splendor. Style shift. Unlike typical Disney musical adaptations, King David was a sung-through oratorio or work-in-progress musical with a more mature, grand, and epic feel. Collaborative legacy. The piece was the 3rd collaboration between composer Alan Menken and lyricist Tim Rice, following Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, and showcased a shift in their artistic direction to a more serious subject matter. Limited engagement. Opening on May 18, 1997, it ran for only 9 performances at the New Amsterdam Theater. Number 10, the legacy and critical reception. Mixed reception. Reviews were mixed, often calling it a work in progress with immense choir-driven sound, but sometimes lacking in dramatic pacing. Forgotten work. Due to its short run, King David is considered a largely forgotten Disney project compared to their massive blockbusters. Recordings and content. A cast recording was released by Walt Disney Records on July 18, 1997, allowing the music to endure. Thematic focus. The show focus was on the biblical story of David as a shepherd boy, giant killer, and king of Israel, focusing on themes of faith and leadership. King David was more a world premiere concert event designed for a 3,000th anniversary in Jerusalem celebration than a commercial Broadway run, but its artistic impact and role in restoring the New Amsterdam made it a notable piece in the Disney Theatrical Archive. So King David, never heard of this for obvious reasons because it's forgotten, obviously, by a lot of people. But the fact that this was the first ever show to ever play in the New Amsterdam Theater, the home of Disney's Broadway hits, is really fascinating. And the fact that they christened that theater with a concert. Like, it's not a full-on musical. It is a flat-out concert of a story. So it's longer than a Broadway show, I think. I don't know how long Phantom of the Opera is. I think it's a long one. I can't remember. But the fact that Disney started off with like a concert-style performance instead of a brand new Broadway show is pretty interesting. So there you have it. Those are the facts to King David the musical, kind of. If you like this video, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And I hope you have a zippity-doo-dah day. Goodbye.